Hello and welcome to the British Dapper, and today we're talking about 2025 autumn overcoat and jacket, trending and tips. So today's video is the last in a series of videos that we've done covering what is actually trending at the moment and what is popular for autumn 2025. And today we're going to discuss overcoats and jackets, and I mean casual jackets, bomber jackets, reefer coats, those sort of things, all the way through to discussing what's actually trending at the moment and my personal view on what I believe will be very popular in the autumn 2025 period. The one caveat I'd put over all of this is that just remember, if you are happy wearing a particular style, certain range of colours, then why would you change that? That's fine, fully accept that. And if you're more fashion orientated, then maybe this might be helpful to include a different version of colour schemes or style or texture to what you're actually wearing this autumn. So in this video, I'm going to break it down to two main areas, and that is we're going to talk about jackets and then talk about coats. But what I would say in front of all this is that my personal view is that jackets, whether they be these bomber jackets or a chore jacket as an example that's been winterized, they are more, in my mind, a casual affair. They're something that's more casual and a more relaxed look. And I don't see people wearing those with a suit on their way to work or in an environment where it's a very formal dress code. Having said that, coats can bridge the gap between casual and more formal, and depending on the formality depends on the style of coat you might want to employ. And so I'm going to discuss all these facts and these points with you as we go through today's journey on looking at jackets and coats and in what to wear in autumn 2025. So let's have a look at a few of the ideas I have about short jackets, not only from a perspective of what I like to wear, but also what is trending at the moment, picking up on the autumn 2025 series that we're doing at the moment. So if we start off with shorter jackets, then obviously we've got there's at the moment a big craze for leather safari jackets and suede safari jackets. Now these are quite lightweight, and I have in the past used a similar version of a shooting jacket which is made of a tweed fabric, and so this is very much the similar vein. And I think whilst leather and suede is much high profile for this autumn 2025, I still think some of those traditional materials, heavy tweeds, heavy wool versions of those shortened jackets will be still very popular. Now, one jacket that really stands out for me is that bomber jacket, and I mean the sheepskin bomber jacket. Really good for the late autumn into the winter period. Goes particularly well over a chunky jumper, a pair of jeans and a pair of boots, and you've got a fantastic look for that time of the year. But the trouble with that is it's very, very good at insulating you and giving you a lot of heat. So it's a very tentative period in autumn when you start wearing this, because you can overheat wearing it. I think it's more of a latter part of autumn and more into a winter period where you're taking the dog for a walk or you're popping into town, something a lot more casual. This look is really a cracking look. So when it comes to those leather jackets, they are normally in a finished leather. They look really good on certain people, and they are quite shiny, so any scratch or embellishment really stands out on them. So they don't particularly age very well, unless they're really cared for, regularly waxed and looked after. And the other thing is that they do, on the darker ones, for example, black is, whilst it's a lovely colour, with abrasion, the actual finish on the jacket can wear out over time through wear and tear, and you end up with a slightly grey finish in certain places on the jacket. So not an ideal colour, I would suggest. Although a lot of people still like wearing black leather jackets, I would suggest maybe go for those chocolate browns or those lighter tan colours if you're going to wear something like this. So similarly, where we're talking about coats, again, those sheepskin coats are really popular at the moment. They are trending for 2025. I think that sheepskin coats are very much the low end of the range, as in they are very much a casual affair, and I don't see many people wearing something like that with a formal suit. However, in the 60s and 70s they were extremely popular, and they were popular because in the cold conditions, and they were very robust and also very insulating as well. They were fantastic for keeping warm, and they did fall out of favour towards the end of the 70s, and every now and again you'll see them in charity shops or on eBay or Vinted, something like that. They tend to be more of a historical piece, but I did notice there's a lot of companies now selling them again, recreated, so some of them have got hoods on, whereas traditionally they wouldn't have done. But I still think it's a great item if you had room in your wardrobe, because they are not only bulky, but they are very heavy. So to be fair, I've heard of a lot of people putting them on double hangers when they've hanged them up, because the sheer weight of them will break the hangers. So interesting slant is that the fashion houses are pushing out sheepskin coats, and we seem to be going back to those more traditional properties and materials being used. And I think it's a great thing to see the revival of this, but I do think it's much more of a casual affair. I don't think it's going to look particularly good for anything formal, but it goes really well with a pair of jeans or a pair of chinos or a pair of corduroy trousers, moleskin trousers, something like that, and a pair of brogue shoes or a pair of boots. Fantastic look. And I still think it still has its place, despite trending at the moment, and trends come and go, but I do think handled well, dressed accordingly with the right items to go with it, that will be a great addition to anybody's wardrobe. Along with leather coats, they are more of something that would fit in with a casual setting, but they are very much in trend at the moment, and I would suggest with the leather and suede coats that they are more of casual wear, semi-formal look. I can't see somebody wearing those with a suit and without it really clashing with the level of formality. There's something else to avoid, is that matrix look. I think if you're going for a black coat, a leather coat, then be a little bit conscious of that look, because you're going to get labelled with that immediately if it's too long. Now that brings us quickly on to wool coats, full length wool coats, and these have always been very popular, and the colours that you get them in, I think even the traditional ones will still be in favour this season in August 2025. I think those green colours are coming through a lot more, so olive greens, drab, what we call drab green, you've got forest greens. Those sort of colours are really quite high profile at the moment, and they really do make a statement. Again, I think they might be edging more towards the casual than the very formal look, because of the colour scheme, but they go great with browns, so anything like that, you really have a good look. So with those full wool coats, you can have them embellished, so the collar might be more of a fur collar or something along that side of it, or I think, which is much more typical, is going to be the velvet collar look. And this stems back to when the collars used to wear out on the coat, and it was a frugal measure to actually put a strip of velvet there that could be removed and another piece of velvet put there, rather than have to have a new coat or a new collar made for the coat itself. So I think that's a very popular look. It goes back to the covert coat, is very popular again as a look. Whether you're going to get the thorn-proof version of that, the traditional covert coat, I don't think you're going to see that necessarily in circulation from a fashion point of view, but I do think it will fit in really well in the classic scene. So if you've got one of those in the wardrobe, you could still wear that and it will still be a great look. Similarly, those heavy wool coats are really great in the winter months or the latter part of autumn into winter, and they do give you a much more thicker, robust material, and they do keep you very warm, and they traditionally have been worn more with suits or a more formal look, but nowadays you can dilute that down and wear it in a much more casual setting. For example, here is an example of me wearing a military style wool coat, double-breasted, and you can see here just wearing that with a roll neck jumper, pair of jeans and a pair of brogue shoes, and it's still a great look and goes well in the autumn period as well. So let's talk about those colours that are about at the moment, and I think besides the very formal black and green wool coats, I think the majority of people will be looking at those earthy tones. So we're talking about chocolate browns, fawns, maybe ginger as well, that sort of brown tanned colour. And then we've also got the almost off-white coats, and that brings me swiftly on to the traditional duffel coat. So duffel coats are something that's been pushed around a little bit for autumn 2025, and I think a duffel coat is one of those coats that, okay, it doesn't fit in the formal setting and it's more of a casual informal look, but I still think they're a great coat to have. Adds a lot of character to the overall outfit that you'd be wearing, and it does keep you very, very warm. They were designed for adverse conditions, and as long as you get a really good one, I think you won't be disappointed with a duffel coat. So just a few ideas there for you about jackets and coats in the autumn 2025 period, and what you might like to consider for your wear in 2025. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to remind you about our Patreon page, and that has different tiers, different levels of access. I'll put a link down below so you can just check it out for yourself, but if you'd like to join our group, the very bottom tier gives you access to our WhatsApp group for general chats and discussions. There are free monthly videos as well, but the next tier up you'll get weekly videos on exclusive content, and also a next level up will give you access to not only that but also behind the scenes discussions about what I'm intending to do over the next few weeks and what the channel is doing to move forward. But at the other end of that as well is that you can have access to question and answer video calls and also one-to-one interaction with myself if you'd like to discuss a particular issue that you've got, or you want resolved, or if you just want to chat with me on a personal level. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give us a thumbs up. If you'd like to subscribe, then please feel free to do so. We have a Buy Me a Coffee page, so if you'd like to make a contribution to the channel, then please feel free to do so. We also love constructive comments, so if you'd like to make some, jot them down below. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. And if you've got a question you'd like to pose to us, or you'd like an answer to, then why not jot it down? We'll try and answer your question for you. We also like ideas for future videos, so if you want to make a contribution and make a suggestion about future content, then please, again, jot it in the notes below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. The next video could be something that you've recommended or suggested. So until next time, take care.